And record, and we are live. So for whoever might be seeing this on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, welcome. My name's Greg Jameson. I have the pleasure and privilege today of being with my colleague, Captain Jim Palmer.
And how are you, Greg?
I am fantastic. I really appreciate you doing this.
Oh, we've been doing a few of these. It's a lot of fun. And I do my own lives about every week too, just to keep the skill set sharp. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's all good. So for those who are not aware, Jim has been launching a program here over the last couple of weeks called Lucrative Virtual Mastermind, of which I have joined, and I have actually gone through, well, I went through the first three modules 2 or 3 times each, and then he's got a number of other modules in there that I've been watching as time permits. So I've probably gone through 6 or 7 of those. So maybe what we'll do here today with this conversation is actually talk about some of those things and talk about virtual masterminds in general. I'm going to actually start out with, I'm going to start out by asking Jim to introduce himself a little bit better for those who may not be familiar with him.
Yeah, so I became an entrepreneur in 2001, and my first business at about 2005, 2006, it had done pretty well. And but then I got into internet marketing. Met a gentleman, Mike Capuzzi, introduced me to Dan Kennedy, my greatest mentor. And I eventually launched 5 different internet companies. And then in 2009, some folks that I was hanging out with at live events and things like that, Greg, were asking me, how are you doing all that? And of course, Dan said, if anybody asks you how you do stuff, you might have a coaching program. So that's when I launched what today is the Dream Business Mastermind and Coaching Program. And about 2 years ago, I put together this program, which is kind of the genesis for what we're doing today. But I've added some training modules, and also I'm going to be doing a live training on Wednesday, 2 days from now, because the word virtual has taken on a whole new meaning from 2 years ago when I launched this. Was right before, I think it was right either same month or right before COVID. I can't remember the exact date, but so it's a lot of fun. I mean, I make my living basically running my mastermind. I still have 3 internet businesses which kind of run on autopilot. Like you, I've authored many books there, you can see. And for the last 5 years, my wife Stephanie and I have lived on that beautiful boat right there, which is not mine anymore. Much sadness, but yeah, it's been real good, and I've enjoyed, and through my own private clients, Greg, I've taught so many people how to do this. So I'm excited to teach even more people through the course that we're putting out today. Well, through today.
Yeah, so awesome. And I think that, yeah, for those that don't know, I've been following Jim since before he got started on the boat deal, and he used to do videos when he was paddling around in a kayak.
Yeah, my first boat had no motor. And I still have them today. We took them to, we went to the Keys this past winter, Greg. It was the furthest we've ever gone, 1,360 miles from our home port. And then, of course, 1,360 miles back, with the price of diesel fuel doubling in the process. But yeah, we still have our kayaks today.
Awesome. And a long time ago, in a different lifetime, I guess, you ran a bicycle shop. And
yeah,
I found that to be super exciting, because I've been an avid cyclist. Well, it's been, I guess, about 20, I've been a cyclist all my life, but about 20 years ago, I trashed my knee in a skiing accident. I had to start riding a bike to rehab it, and been riding a bike ever since. So I found that interesting about your background, is how you ran a bike.
Yeah, that was my first job when I was 15. And then when I was 20, I became manager of a bicycle store, and I kind of met my wife, actually, the boss's daughter, And then I thought, well, Stephanie and I were going to get married. I better get a real job. But I actually, long story short, I got into another bicycle business that was franchising, and we grew from up to 80 stores in 18 states through this company, Bikeline. And eventually I did leave it, but I was in cycling a long time, 28 years, I think, altogether.
Yeah. So as you are aware, I have been working with people that sell products online pretty much since the start of the internet. I actually am not working with any bike shops, but I do have people that are selling physical products online. And one of my questions for you is, we talk about this virtual mastermind situation, is, okay, so I've got somebody over here selling candles, and I've got somebody else over here selling jewelry, and maybe somebody else over here that's selling, I don't know, baskets. Where does a virtual mastermind fit in for them? I mean, certainly I know that I am going to be launching a virtual mastermind for my customers that are selling those products.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm the person that just has a retail shop and I'm selling t-shirts, does it make any sense for me to have a mastermind?
Well, it's interesting. And so I like giving great answers to questions, but sometimes the question, to give a really great answer, you need to have a pretty lengthy conversation. But I'm going to do my best here, because honestly, there's so many variables with different niches and industries and things like that. Not all mastermind groups have to be business related or coaching related. They could be, if you think of another word for, well, it's not another word for mastermind, but if you think of associations, Greg, every industry has associations where people pay to belong, and you're part of a group. They put on training, somebody leads it. So in a way, a mastermind is a much more scaled down version of that. But the virtual mastermind concept, I think, can be used to create groups in just about any industry. Just take the blinders off a little bit and think of what's possible, because I'm a huge fan of multiple streams of revenue. The reality is, does the person putting the group together have a skill set, a talent, some leadership? Do they do some things well in their industry that, if it is an industry specific group, might benefit the other people? And then the biggest part of a mastermind is the collective minds in the group, hence the word, masterminding. When I work with a client, I try and look for what is unique or different about them. What would be attractive to other people, again, whether it's niche specific or not, to pay them money to invest as a way for them to learn, to grow, and to move their business forward. So that's what I try and do. One of my clients has been with me about 4 months now, which is interesting because of my current or just past travels, 5 years on the boat. So this guy runs in North Carolina a boat detailing company. Most boat detailing companies, Greg, in the United States, is one man in a truck and a buffer, and that's it. He's built a real business. He's got like 12 employees. They're on 4 different locations. And so I started talking to him 3 years ago, and he's kind of like, we're investigating, well, I said, what makes your business unique and different besides its size? And therefore, how'd you get here? And so we're sort of putting together a program on that. As you know, from the training, Bill Warren is a very successful jewelry store owner in a small mountain town in North Carolina. And he started with me, and his big goal was to do paid speaking engagements, and therefore use that as a magnet to get private coaching clients. I said, you just got to create a mastermind. And all of my clients, to some degree, myself included, when I started, not that I was my own client, but you kind of worry, do I have what it takes to lead the group? What if you get on this group call and you're supposed to dispense some wisdom and knowledge, and you're like, I don't know, so everybody's got a little bit of that head trash going. But I told Bill, with what he's done, there are jewelry stores all across the country, some big, some large, that would want to learn from him. So we created a very successful group called the Ultimate Jewelers Mastermind Group. And then there's others, Greg. I was working with a lady who runs a successful hair salon up in Rhode Island. And I said, what makes you different? Of course, I don't know. I says, do you have faster turnover? in turnover of clients. In other words, sales per square foot in a day, right? How many people do you have working for you? What does your life look like? Are you still behind the chair? So I'm trying to look for the thing that's most attractive to other people who would like to have a business like theirs. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I do. So it is a little bit of a lengthy process. But there's not too many businesses that I can think of where, and I know you'll resonate with this language, Greg. So if you take like 100 people or 100 business owners, there's maybe 10% or maybe 10 to 15 people at the bottom. We're always struggling. There's people, maybe 10 again, 15% at the top who are always doing well. And then there's the big middle. And that's kind of where you get the average. Most of the people in that middle, those are the ones who are usually willing to invest. They're striving maybe to get to their first 6 figures. Maybe they're trying to do this or that, the other thing. And to the people that have already done that in one way, shape, or form, they have something that they could learn from you. And or if you bring 6 people, 12 people, 25 people into a group, a virtual mastermind group, you've got another revenue stream. And it could, there's no guarantees, but Bill Warren, Diamond Bill, and he doesn't mind me saying this, he's over 6 figures. He's barely into his second year now with his Jewelers Mastermind. And they meet once a month on the telephone.
Yeah, so I guess for anybody watching this then, regardless of what industry you're in or what niche you're in, pay attention to what Jim's saying here, that even if you're selling baskets on your website and that's your business model, there may be an opportunity for you here.
Greg, we used to go to Glazier Kennedy events, right? Is that right?
Yep.
I know we've seen each other there. I remember at one point it was either Dan or Bill Glazier had a whole bunch of people come up on stage. There was somebody who was doing quilt making. Somebody was how to clean your gun and sharpen, how to get the scope trained. And he'd had all these different people who had coaching programs. And sometimes you call them masterminds, sometimes they're coaching programs, sometimes they're a membership, or you can call them anything you want. To me, a lucrative virtual mastermind is a collection of people that come together and each pay you a certain amount a month. And that is a nice revenue stream for you. And if you continue to deliver value, and I'll share this with you, when Bill Warren started his Ultimate Jewelers Mastermind, he didn't do it like I run my group. I call them profit seats. Sometimes you see they're called hot seats. I call mine profit seats. So I do 4 or 5 profit seats a month. Bill, what he does, and I originally came up with this idea for Bill because when you're starting out, is anybody going to want a profit seat? What if nobody, then what do you got, dead air like on the radio? And I said, Bill, you're so smart. Here's what I want you to do. You're going to put together a 1-hour call. If it goes a little longer, that's great, but it's a 1-hour call. The first 20 minutes every month is you teaching something. It could be how to sell jewelry live on TV using your iPhone. It could be some successful promotion for the holidays. Whatever it is, teach something the first 20 minutes. Do 15 to 20 minutes of a little bit of a live Q&A round robin. Who's ever done something like this? And he'd got a variation, any questions on how those, and then, pick one person to get in, what I called, he come up with the name, the diamond mine. So get in the diamond mine, and then we're going to, get the jewels and all that. It's important to use branding and, just make it special, but that's how he did it. So it's not necessarily, it is a mastermind, but it's really Bill being the leader and the teacher, the guru, so to speak, and then other people benefiting from his wisdom.
Yeah, and it seems like with your profit seats, which I love that terminology versus a hot seat, but it seems like with those that you can get people to volunteer for that before you ever start the thing. So maybe they have a chance to prepare. It's like, hey, I've been going through these challenges over the last couple of weeks in my business, and I want to present. And so you give them.
That's exactly right.
To be in the profit seat.
And in any group, Greg, I mean, I've got 27 people in my mastermind / coaching program. I probably get maybe 10, 12 or 14 people on average come on the group call, but everybody that I coach one-on-one says, oh, that was a great call. They're always listening to the replay. Some people are just busy. Some people just want to work with me, but they enjoy listening to it. So it's not that you're always going to have however many people in your group attend a live call. Many people, because of just how they work or their schedules, prefer to listen to the replay.
Yeah, I've actually got people that I've put through courses online that 2, 3 years later, they've come to me and said, hey, can I get access back into your course? Because there was some stuff that I was forgotten. I need to go back and watch these
Yeah,
things.
it's the old shrink wrap program, metaphorically speaking, that never gets opened.
Yeah. So, as I said, I've been doing online courses myself. You've seen that I've written books. I was actually doing a keynote speech in New York a couple weeks ago.
I saw that.
And it was actually interesting. I had a question that came up at the end of my presentation, which I didn't have a very good answer for. And I guess I kind of fumbled around a little bit answering her, and my solution was, okay, I'm going to go back and research this because I don't have a good answer for you right now. How do you feel about that as it relates to your mastermind program? Is it okay to tell people, I don't know, but I'm going to get you the.
Yeah, I mean, there's a variation of that. Now, I believe that people attract like-minded people. I don't know, it's just the energy, the way the universe works, whatever, but I attract an awful lot of people who are either kind of where I am or where I used to be more appropriately. And so their questions are usually marketing, branding oriented. How do I do this? How do I do that? And the cool thing is, the program that I use to run my calls, again, they're just phone based. I mean, when I started, there was no Zoom. But I can see who's on the phone. Like here's all the callers you have. So I can say, somebody asked me a question. I said, you know what? Well, a very good example of that, Greg, honestly, is I've always hired people to do Facebook ads. It's just, I'm not dumb. It's not like I couldn't go learn it, but I don't want to. I'd rather just pay somebody to do it well, So if I'm launching a course or a program or doing something and there's a paid marketing component, I will farm that out. So therefore, if somebody's on my call and says, hey, what's the best way to create Facebook ads that work? If that was a question, I'd say, I don't have the faintest idea, but I know who does. And I'll joke because it's usually somebody in the group, right? I'll say, well, I'll give you a couple, or I may say, and I believe me, the personality that I have is the same personality from when I wake up to when I go to sleep. So I don't turn into professional Jim with a tie when I'm on my group. I'm saying, listen, I say exactly what I just said to you. I'm smart enough to know what I need to know, and I'm smart enough to invest in people who can do it better than me. Facebook ads is one of those areas. Now, I'm going to give you a couple things that I've learned and a couple tidbits, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on, and I'll look at my screen, Greg. I'm going to call on Megan. I'm going to call on Julie, and I'm going to call on Adam. And so that's me teeing them up. Right. So if they're eating their sandwich or doing whatever, they're going to get ready to be called on. And so then I'll give my thing about, what I've learned is least and direct response marketing. You only want to change one thing at a time. Don't change the picture and the headline and description. You'll have no idea which one, because you're always trying to better your best. So I'll give an answer like that. One of the things I'm teaching, I believe it's part of the course, but I'm also going to be teaching it in a little more depth on Wednesday night bonus call, is what I call seed planting language. So I can give an answer to a question and I can immediately pivot to give a great answer that I want to give, that I also think will provide value. It's a little bit like a politician does, except they never answer the question at all. I will answer the question, but I'm going to do so in a way, right, that gives some good information. And so that's what I would do. I want to make sure the person leaves satisfied. But yeah, I don't know that I ever use the exact words. I don't know, but I'll find out. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're speaking, and that gives you an opportunity to follow up with that person, maybe take the relationship to the next level. I think one of the things that I've learned is that people are investing in the Dream Business Mastermind Coaching Program because they want to be connected with me. They want to learn from me. A lot of people go, Jim, I want to work 3 days a week like you do, or I want to do this, that, and the other thing. So they do recognize me as the person running the group because it is my group. So I'm always teaching people, remember how your customers see you. So when you, Greg, and other people are working with your customers, remember how they see you. They see you as that smart person, at the top of the hill. So do your best, not that you're ever going to give a really bad answer or, steer somebody the wrong direction, but to the best of your knowledge, you need to kind of carry that water, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. In this particular case, it had been a question about supply chain, specifically from China, and
Ah,
how that had been impacting their business during the course of COVID and the backups in Long Beach and so forth.
yep.
And they were like, what can I do to overcome this? And my answer was, well, China's not your only place that you can source things, but I
Yeah.
didn't know where to send them. So that's where I said, I need to find this out. And then I went back and did some research about, okay, where else could they be sourcing these products besides China?
Well, what a huge problem. And by the way, I don't know if anybody's running a mastermind group or a virtual group for people who source their product overseas. But could you imagine a group that comes together once a month for a 1 hour call, and the person leading that group has done a little bit of research and homework, say, by the way, here's what I'm learning here. Here's what I'm learning here. Did you know you can also get this from there? I mean, that would have real value. That was kind of like with your very first question. It's called a virtual mastermind, but it's not always focused on coaching and business and marketing. It can be where people come together to get some information that will help them all move forward. That's just a little spin there.
Yeah, and that's one of the topics that I will be covering in my mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
Of the types of people that I attract. Now, you mentioned in your program that there's 10 different ways that you should be filling your mastermind. And you talk about most of the things that I've already done. I'm a published author, I'm a speaker, I'm got my own web presence, I'm doing things on social media and whatnot. But at the point that I'm actually ready to launch, those are all kind of long-term things. Now I'm
Right.
saying, hey, I want to launch this thing. What methods, I guess, specifically do you recommend for saying, hey, I'm going to launch this thing over the course of the next 2, 3, 4 weeks?
Well, so recognizing that, to me, whenever somebody says which one or which couple, so the answer usually is you do them all. But I understand the framework of your question, which is which one can help me get going the fastest, right? So the fact that you are a published author, that's good. But I also want to point out a couple of things. If you already are an author, especially in today's world, publish on demand. I mean, not my first 2 books. I had to order like 3,500 books in my garage. Today, I can put up a book in no time flat. It's just print on demand. There's no real huge outlay other than your time. But having said that, I could take any one of my books and re-edit the thing to include information or include different taglines or information. Maybe it's just updating about the author or how to move forward, learning more from me, working with me, and boom, upload that. So any books that you're still selling that were written before this day could now include that information. So that's a good thing. You can also write, by the way, very specific books. So instead of writing your, say, 100 to 180 page book, kind of a book as we want to call it, you can write a 50 or 60 page, I'll just call it a niche specific book, with the idea that the main, the heavy lifting of this book is to help fill my mastermind. So I've done that a few times. I'm working with a CPA for about 5 years now and on his practice. And now we've been launching a coaching program because he's very, very smart guy in that way. And so we put together a book called the 90-Day Profit Reset. So the 90-Day Profit Reset is based on a 90-day course that he offers. So there's 3 training modules, and that was the basis for the book. But the book is designed 100% to get people to know who he is, why you want to be part of his program, and that's working. And by the way, when we launched Bill's Diamond Bill Warren's mastermind, we launched that in 3 weeks. He joined my program December of, gosh, I want to say 2019, and by the 3rd week in January, he launched his program and brought in like 24 members paying $300 a month. So not too shabby. But then what we did over the course of the next 4 months is we put a book together with my team called The Fastest Way to a Full Recovery. Now, this was the year of the COVID and stores were closed down and things like that. So that was the title we came up with. But that whole title with Diamond Bill, this is what I teach my members in my Ultimate Jewelers Mastermind, that is fluent throughout the book. So you got books on your shelf, you're published, but that doesn't mean you're done. So there's a couple different ways that you can use that. As far as some of the other ways to fill it, my humble opinion, Facebook challenges are probably on the waning side of working, being popular. Doesn't mean you wouldn't do one, because if you had 3 or 5 different marketing strategies to fill your mastermind, and that was one of them, and let's say all 5 together brought you 10 new members, but that brought you 2. If you didn't do that, well, you have 8. Not bad, but why not go for 10? So you might be doing them all. Again, my humble opinion, the day of the 5 or 7 or 10 day challenge, I think that's over. I don't know anybody who's got the time to go through that whole strategy. Diamond Bill and some other folks that I'm working with do use a 2 or a 3 day strategy. I do like a 3-night strategy for this reason. You teach on first night, you teach really good the second night, and then you tease the third night about the program that you have. And then when you come back on the third night, you're going to teach your final element, which is a very good one, and you still have the captive audience. I think that three lesson strategy works really well. See if there's anything else I give you. Well, probably when you're getting started brand new, this isn't necessarily for you, Greg, but other folks who may have not even done anything like this. Your first group is going to come from your contacts, people in your phone. Good Lord, and I almost dated myself, the Rolodex. I don't have a Rolodex up, but it just popped into my head, right? I don't know if you got a Rolodex.
I don't have one anymore either.
There we go. But, back in the day, you had a Rolodex, you had your book with contacts. Now it's in your phone. But most people will fill their initial group largely from the contacts. I know, just because I'm a good marketer, how many people are in my Facebook group, how many people follow me on LinkedIn, how many, and of those people, how many, I guess the expression, the cream rises to the top, how many people, and I'm going to say something that makes me sound egotistical, but it's just my own internal language. When I'm talking to my team, I go, okay, we got the gym super fans over here. We got the people who've been following me forever. Some have bought books, some bought courses. And then we got others who have been following me and just soaking up wisdom, so to speak, but haven't bought anything. Those are all 3 different groups. I might approach the gym super fans and say, listen, I'd love to have you in my mastermind, because the other thing that happens, I think sometimes people are afraid to approach you if they see you too successful. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, I don't want to bother you, but in the meantime, it'd be a really wonderful fit. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Some are very immediate, some can be immediate, like the phone call, email, getting people on a Zoom call, telling them what you're doing. And I know since you went through the training, Greg, you've already heard me use this expression, charter member. So if you have launching a new program, you can give the first 3 people, 5 people, 10 people, it's completely up to you, charter membership. And what that might look like is, let's say your group, just for the sake of our discussion here, is going to be $300 a month. You can get your first 5 members as charter members, maybe at $197 a month, and maybe hold that rate for 2 years or 3 years or something like that. Give them a reason to say yes, and reward them for their early on loyalty, and then go from there.
Yep. Good info there. I think that one of the things that I have found is exactly what you're saying. The 5-day challenges, I sign up for a number of them because they sound interesting. And by the 3rd day, it's like, I really don't have time to keep going with this. So
Yeah.
I think that's through the idea of a live virtual summit where you bring multiple speakers in and you launch your product as part of that, but because you've got a number of speakers coming in and they bring their following with them, seems like a good option as well.
That could be. My impression of that is, and I've done a lot of giant virtuals. I don't do too many of them anymore, but I think that's a way, in my opinion. I guess what I'm struggling to say here, Greg, is I wouldn't necessarily promote my own program when you have multiple speakers. There should be, maybe it's a book, maybe everybody's got a chapter in a book, or there should be some collective thing where everybody benefits. And if everybody's getting on there and sharing their good information, and you're the only one pitching a program, because honestly, that's the only way it would work. You've been to those events where every speaker gets on stage every 45 minutes, talks for 10 minutes, and then spends half an hour pitching their $497 program. That gets old. So anyway,
Yeah. So in your training and in your program, I guess you talk about having 2 or 3 different levels, and the top level, you have a whole list of items that are included in there that are things more than just the mastermind. They're coaching things, are done for you programs,
Right.
are done with you, and so forth. Does that confuse people by having this big long list? And I guess as a follow-up, should that really be part of the core package, or should you say that when you join my program, I'm going to give you all these bonuses?
Yeah, so I'm a visual person, and the internet is by nature visual. So if somebody's on a website, I'm a big fan. As you've seen, I always like 3 programs. You don't need 5. You don't need 2. I think 3 is good. Doesn't mean you have to start out with 3. I started out with 2 and saw the need for a 3rd program. Just like I described earlier, there's kind of the people down here, the big middle, and then people up here. So that's why 3s work: good, better, best. As far as your question about should you just take everything and pack it into one or use as bonuses, I'm a big fan of bonuses. I mean, I don't care how good your program is. And let's say there's let's say you had a program and there was 10 core benefits of the program. And then you offered 5 bonus items, right? It's kind of what we're talking about. Now, would it sell more if you included 15 benefits and no bonuses? Absolutely not. I'm 100% convinced that, because the best program in the world is going to walk all prospects right up to the edge or the 1-yard line. And many people need help getting a little gentle push. This is going to be great. Let's go for the ride together type thing. What helps that to happen more naturally, Greg, is that when people get excited about a program with these 10 benefits, this is all cool. And then, but wait, if you register before it, you get these 5 things are cool. What's interesting is that those bonuses almost have the same or more value than the core program. I know this works because I'm very skilled at this strategy, and I fall for it all the time. Well, not so much, but before Dan Kennedy, got sick, he was doing those annual special training programs, and then it would turn it into a product in the fall. I always watched his live streams when it was Dave D interviewing and other people. And he's got this whole program, direct mail or mailbox millions. I'm trying to think of some of the other names. And I'm like, I have all that stuff. And then somebody calls in and goes, so Dan, most people have all that stuff. What's it? Well, I understand that. And believe me, a lot of the stuff they have is in this program, but here's why you want it, because I've restructured it in a way it flows better. And by the way, I've also added this, that, and the other thing. And Greg, I can't tell you how many times I popped in 1997 into that website because of that extra bonus, right? So it does work. You incentivize it. And by the way, if you don't believe me, if you ever have insomnia and you're up like watching late night and those infomercials come on, and so you're looking at this great set of knives. Wait, you get all those.
There's more.
I know you get all those knives for $10. My God. But wait, if you order now, we'll give you the triple the set. So you get one and you got 2 for Christmas. I'm like, well, crap. So you were just about hooked, but now you get this too. It makes it a no-brainer.
Yep. Good advice there. So I've got a question for you that's specifically about me, and it may not apply to other people. So if it doesn't, that's okay, I guess. But
okay,
like I said, I'm taking your advice. I'm launching my mastermind program. This is happening.
okay,
I'm definitely at that stage. But most of my client base are in retail, and this is their busiest time of the year. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas, they don't have time to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think I should launch my program now? I mean, start saying, hey, it's coming, and launch it like first week of January, or should I wait until after the holidays to really start promoting it and then launch it 3 weeks after that?
So I don't think it's very astute of you to recognize that, because the last thing in the world you want to do is be knocking on somebody's door, online wise or just say, hey, can I talk to you about Mastermind? The guy's got 5 people deep at the counter and Joe called out sick, right? So it's not a good time. And I recognize that. ideally, if people are busy at that time of year, I would have preferred to see you start promoting it post Labor Day, kind of third week in September. You're teasing it, you're doing some online stuff, and then the cart opens maybe mid to late October, so they could consume stuff. The other thing, so by the way, Greg's question, in case you're wondering how does this pertain to me, it's a very good question, and my answer is going to parlay with that. So here's what you want to do. You always want your marketing to, as best as possible, go with the conversation already happening in somebody's mind. So if somebody's busy, fourth quarter, most important quarter, especially for retailers, getting ready for 2023, be right around the corner. So tie some of your marketing to strategies to have your best fourth quarter ever and tee up 2023 to come screaming out of the gates. I mean, it's a little long, but you see where I'm going with that. So tie it into that. Now, I'm also a big fan of not just boom, here it is. Do you want to join? I do like, so when I started promoting this course, the Lucrative Virtual Mastermind course, I wrote this report, made it look all nice, and we started giving that out to get people interested. And then we started doing some other things. So kind of a soft tease them, a little bit of a soft launch. Here's the launch, cart closes. So you might be able to pull that off, Greg. I'm not saying you can't. But the other thing to think about, I'll give you two more options. Then I know we can talk more about this later, but you could do something that was, and so for you, 100% don't do a 5-day thing. Maybe there's a two-night strategy. And that if you started promoting a 2-night course, which will contain 3 things that you can do right now to make this like your best holiday season ever. Right.
Yeah.
So people come for a Tuesday and a Wednesday night, and you give them some really killer strategies. And then during that, you can start talking about this group, and this is what we're pulling together. And by the way, we do launch our first call in November. I'm going to have a call in December, recognizing you're going to be busy. All calls are recorded, but then we're going to come back in January, and we're going to double up January. So we're going to have like a January, 3rd or 4th, and then we're going to do another one, because I'm going to give you 3 more things to make 2023 just like come screaming out of the gate. So polish up what I just said, but it's not just join my mastermind, and this is what we're going to do right away. Things you can implement right away to move your business forward. And then we're going to come back, and I'm going to do a double session at no extra cost in January. Forget the no more chocolate and beer resolutions. We're going to talk about how to make more money with your business. So we're going to double up the calls. Those are resolutions you're going to want to keep, and you're not going to want to miss those calls. Those calls are happening as a bonus for anybody that joins my program, right now. And then we're going to close the cart. Something like that would probably work for you, but it's exactly the reason when Bill started talking to me in December of whatever that year was, I said, we're going to launch this. He goes, I don't have a website. Don't need one. I mean, no website, no nothing. Didn't have a shopping cart. Said, do you have PayPal? Good. Let's do that. I mean, and he got 24 members right off the bat at like $300 a month. So, so it can be done, but we wanted to launch before he goes, Jim, the week or 2 before Valentine's Day, and then 2 weeks after is a mad rush. I said, then we got to launch no later than like January 15th, right? He goes, okay, let's do it. So that's what we did.
Yeah. So for anybody that's listening to this, one of the things that I think here is really important is I'm going to go back and watch this again and take everything that Jim just said and figure out how I can apply that. And I was noticing that I was doing that as I was going through Jim's materials as well, is that I would go back and I would re-listen to things. In fact, I copied a number of the audio files onto my phone. And I would go do my daily exercise or walk around the block or whatever. I was listening to Jim's stuff. And that's something that I guess I recommend, is that you sign up for Jim's Lucrative Virtual Mastermind program here, and don't just go through the materials once. Go through them as many times as you need to in order to really make it be not just something that you've heard before, but something that is a part of you and you implement.
It's a good strategy. When we sold our house and moved onto the boat, I gave away almost 400 books to a couple different like Vietnam vets and I think some of the business groups that were in town. But anyway, I have no room for them. Didn't want to put them in storage, but I do have right off to my left. We boxed them. Now that I have them here, I have probably 50 of my best books, Dan Kennedy books, copywriting books. Can't read all the titles from here, but I reread those, and it's just like they used to say that like about the Bible and other things. You read things at a certain time, and you may reread it. It means something completely different for where you are in your life now. And so there's certain information that I think when you go through the course, you're going to take in, but whether it's a week later or a month later, you rewatch it because you're almost listening. I believe anyway, you're going through online training programs with like a speed. And sometimes people actually queue up the player to put it on 1.5 times, which is fine. But, sometimes the information comes at you pretty quickly. As you can tell, I'm a fairly fast talker. So you definitely want to go by and rewatch that again, see what you missed.
Awesome. So before we wrap up here, is there anything that you wanted to specifically cover here today that we haven't, and let people know about virtual masterminds and what they should be doing?
I would say, so going back to my own mindset, don't be afraid of doing this. I mean, don't be afraid like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be the professor in the front of the room, and always feel like the weight's on my shoulders. Yes, it's my group. I take great care to make sure there's always value, but it is the collective experience. And also don't be afraid to start where you are with what you have. When I launched my program, we had 7 people the first year. 5 of them were paid. 2 of them were either comped or like bartered people I knew could do things for me. So we did it that way. And then I think we went up to 10 and then 18. So we grew, and it's a very nice size today. It's absolutely afforded me the lifestyle that I live. So I'm very blessed. But had I waited until I thought, well, I'll feel more like a coach in another 5 years, or maybe no, start right now, put your best foot forward. And one of the ways to do that would be to use my program. And the other thing is, as you know, Greg, but for anybody that's listening right now that invests in the program, we close the cart Tuesday night. It's kind of like Disney would say, oh, Princess whatever, we're showing that video now, and then it's gone. It goes back in the vault. So this goes back in the vault after I think midnight Tuesday, and then Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to come on for probably about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and I'm going to give you some extra training. I'm going to show you how to just do a killer interview where people are clamoring for your stuff, because that's another way. I should have mentioned that. Like your second question, go do podcast interviews as a guest. That's a great way to I'm going to show you how to do that without sounding smarmy and salesy. I'm going to teach you some things about how to create like just an amazing offer. And there's a couple other things that's not popping in my head right now, but so Wednesday's call is going to be really good. And if you can't make it, you still want to register, because I'll record the call and add that to the module right below on the membership site.
Awesome. Now, actually, what you said there made me think of something else. So in this particular case, you are closing the cart on Tuesday evening.
Right.
As a general rule, do you want to have your masterminds be that way, where you close the cart on a date, or do you allow people to join your mastermind throughout the year?
Some people do it differently. People can come to my group, but there's no link on the website to join. It has to be with an interview with me. I approve everybody that comes in. I want to make sure I can help you. It's not about, as they used to say, as long as you're breathing, your credit card clears. That's not the way for me. Maybe the first year, but no, I take amazing care of the group. And I'm very fortunate. I get to work with kind of who I want to work with. And more importantly, can I make sure that I can help them so it's a good investment for them? Because my average member stays for 4 years. We have a 1-year commitment, Greg, but most people stay for 4. Having said that, so I do have people come at different times. What I advised Diamond built, and he's still doing it now in his 3rd year, his cart is not open but maybe 3 times a year. So he goes out and speaks at a major jewelry convention. He does something. I'm pretty sure he's going to do what I suggested to you earlier. He's going to do in October. Here's 3 things you can do to make Christmas awesome, and then kick off 2023. and he's going to open his cart, and then it'll go closed again. So there's two different strategies. I don't know that one answer fits all. Somebody could say, you know, I have such a revolving pool of prospects, it would be hard to have it open only at certain times. I'm sure examples like that exist. So there's no good answer, but those are the two main ways to do it.
Okay. So for anyone that is listening here, on the different pages, whether it be Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, I'm going to put what is my affiliate link to Jim's program in here,
Okay.
so that you sign up before the end of the day tomorrow. Who have been so moved to do that by our conversation here today. And I just want to thank you, Jim, for being here. It's been great.
Thank you, Greg. I'm glad we connected again. We always seem to touch base every few years, and I'm
Yeah.
glad you're doing this. And I look forward to helping you get your group going even stronger.
Awesome.